Welcome into the DNZ Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Zach, joined here today with my fellow LOC league mates, Drake and Nick, and with our first ever guest, Brooks. Welcome in, Brooks.
Thank you for having me, folks.
Welcome in, bud.
I appreciate it.
Thompson draft pick.
Ooh, straight to Miami. I'm
Straight
excited.
to Miami. Hey guys, we are here to bring you the latest news and knowledge in the world of Dynasty Fantasy Football. Gentlemen, the NFL Draft was this past weekend. How are we feeling, and what are your initial thoughts on everything?
What a show. That first and second round. A lot of wide receivers off the boards. I think we were going to go through 5 takeaways here total, but draft was super entertaining this year. A lot of trades and a lot of not different than last year. All those quarterbacks going off early, so seeing the quarterback slide, we'll touch on that a bit, but draft was awesome. I had a blast watching it.
I'm still on the edge of my seat. No, the fucking draft was wild. I was glued to that whole shit. I watched every single one of the first three picks, third round, not first 3 picks.
Right.
You saw big players getting swapped. You saw questionable moves. The Patriots, there's just a lot going on in the whole draft, but I'm still on the edge of my seat.
Brutal. Yeah. So I guess today we're just going to kind of run through some of our key takeaways that we saw from everything. We're going to go through 5 of those, maybe talk some winners and losers, talk about what the Patriots and the Vikings were doing, God knows what. And then maybe if there's some time left, we will go through and maybe do a round 1 mock draft in your Dynasty Football League, just a rookie draft. We might be doing a startup draft here in the near future. Let us know down in the comments if that's something you want to see moving forward. So, yeah, 5 takeaways. I think one of the biggest ones, and we're obviously here biased in Kansas City, but man, did the Chiefs kill that draft. They all every draft pick filled a hole that they were needing. Let's kind of run through each and every one of them, kind of see what we like, what we don't like about everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Loved what Veach did. Ended up picking 10 guys in this draft. First round, pick 21, we picked Trenton McDuffie, cornerback out of Washington. I think we're going to plug and play him pretty instantly. Same with our second pick at 30 overall. So we had 2 first-round picks. We did end up trading up for McDuffie. We didn't trade up a whole lot for him, but
8 picks, right?
glad we did. I mean, is he the third best cornerback off the board?
Definitely.
Love that the Bills traded up right after us to take the next guy there. Really made me feel good about that.
Yep, they got that
Never heard
corner
that
out of
guy
Florida.
before.
Right.
I haven't heard of that dude before. Let's be real.
But yeah, then we got at pick 30, we addressed a need of the pass rushing. George Karlaftis, DN out of Purdue. The Greek
football
freak.
Greek freak.
I think he lived in Greece till he was 13 years old. Came to the U.S. and started playing football. Purdue gave him a shot. Now he was a first-round draft pick. I think because we're going to add a guy with a lot of physicalness and a lot of violence. So love his film. So excited those 2 pickups on the defensive end.
I saw Andy said he's really glad to be Greek, or he's really proud to be Greek. That was just a really goofy Andy Reid thing that, to me, says a lot about the player. I feel like that's a high compliment from Andy Reid.
For sure. And then we took Sky Moore, who was our 3rd pick. He kind of just fell to us.
Thankfully.
Again, Pats traded up with us. We actually traded back. And Patriots took Tyquan Thornton, who that was my sleeper pick last pod, if you listened to that. And I was big on him, not that big on him. So
Yeah, not second round big.
Yeah, we'll kind of see. And there's some interesting takeaways from this. Chiefs trading up and getting McDuffie. Everyone maybe thought that they would go and get Jermaine Johnson the second. He was available there
and
at
he
21.
Fell. That was a candidate we trade up if he fell.
Yeah, that was one of the guys that a lot of Chiefs fans were kind of excited for. He fell. Everyone thought that for sure we were going to get him 21. So there's just going to be a lot of comparisons between how Karlaftis does compared to Jermaine Johnson, how well Sky Moore does compared to George Pickens, Tyquan Thornton, and Alec Pierce was also taken ahead of him. So there's just going to be a lot of comparing and contrasting between all these guys, seeing how they do and how they develop here the next few years. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I was shocked that we were able to get Sky Moore where we did. He seemed like a first-round talent, if not early second round, which technically he was still in the mid-round of the second round, which still is pretty solid draft capital for him in general. But for us to trade back and still get Sky Moore, I mean, he's out of Western Michigan. You're automatically knocked for coming from a smaller school. But he still produced. I mean, he's led the combine, and he's got the biggest hands. Like, he's super quick in 10-yard spans. Like, this type of guy to follow the Chiefs, and for Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to have instant fantasy impact. And I know we've got Juju, but this guy could be our wide receiver one sooner rather than later.
Oh, yeah. I think another thing kind of eyeing is how Sky Moore does compared to a lot of those first-round receivers. I know a lot of Chiefs fans we lost Tyreek Hill. We have to replace Tyreek Hill. We have to go get someone else. We have to trade up. We have all these picks. And so maybe seeing, obviously, those second-round guys, but also how some of those other first-round guys do,
Right.
kind of comparing them.
That's a long list. Even just those guys in the second round. Like, Mechie went before Sky Moore. George Pickens went before Sky Moore. Alex Pierce went before Sky Moore. Tyquan Thornton went before Sky Moore. And who else am I missing? There's one other there. I can't remember. But a lot of, even in the second round.
That's a big chip on his shoulder, too, knowing he's going to the Chiefs. I'm like, all these mofos passed on me. I'm going to go to the Chiefs, and I'm going to show you why you missed out. So, Chiefs definitely killed it. They've also addressed linebacker getting Leo Chanel. I think I pronounced his last name wrong, but
Yeah, Chanel, Channel.
so
One of those.
right.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure
Definitely
it out.
not Channel, probably Chanel.
So we addressed linebacker position. We also addressed safety, getting Brian Cook from Cincinnati. That dude plays with some physicality as well. That's a big theme from this draft, is we just got some mean dudes who like flying around, like hitting people on our defense. So
He's got that dreadlock power.
you got the dreadlock power. And then we also addressed gaping hole there, right tackle, right guard, with the 5th round pick, the lineman out of Kentucky.
Yep.
And
So-
this dude, let me tell you about this dude. I think this guy best defines the Chiefs draft as a whole, because every single one of our draft picks we should not have been able to get. It was really, really stupid. Really, really stupid. Really dumb. It was very incredibly words we cannot use right now. But this lineman, no reason he shouldn't have gone 2 rounds earlier. He lost 30 pounds, and now he weighs 330. And if anyone saw his interview right post draft after we called him and picked him, woo,
Business.
He's coming.
And 5th round pick. And is that the same round that we got Trey Smith last year?
I believe so.
So, I mean, Veach got a good track record, snagging some offensive linemen late, and wouldn't be surprised if he competes for that right tackle position right away.
Oh, yeah.
When he's starting, he is starting.
And the
Gang's a bitch.
And we did pick in the 4th round Joshua Williams, DB out of Fayetteville State.
That dude's huge.
He's got a lot of length to him. He's basically Sauce Gardner at great value.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how he pans out. Veach has been pretty solid, those late round secondary players. That's why I wasn't expecting him to go McDuffie in the 1st round. Like, Veach hasn't.
Definitely not.
He hasn't done that yet. So to see him do that was shocking, but I'm glad he did, because that's an instant starter. Like, you're looking at at least four starters ready to roll come week 1 on both sides of the ball.
Starters, if not just rotational players. I mean, you get some guys who can learn your offense, learn your defense, and then be ready to roll week 1. I think that's a hell of a draft class. Definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if you're a Chiefs fan.
The rest of the league needs to start watching this shit too, because he killed the draft last year.
Yeah.
Like, he's putting back-to-back draft classes together, and he's going to have just as many picks next year too.
Yep.
I think he has the perfect mix of the nerd shit and the eye for the talent at the same time. So we'll talk about the Vikings later. I guess this GM is the first GM
Newbie.
purely from the nerd world, and we think he really fucked up. So we'll get into that later on.
Yeah, so we love the Chiefs draft. We're obviously a little bit biased, but love the Chiefs draft. Love what Veach is doing. Can't wait for season to start. And another team that we thought did really well, and not just in the draft in general, but just the impacts on fantasy that it's going to have, is the New York Jets. They drafted a couple guys that are going to be fantasy relevant pretty right away, are going to go top 5 in your rookie mock drafts. Garrett Wilson, 2nd wide receiver off the board, pick number 10, wide receiver out of Ohio State. We've talked a little bit about him, but I think that's a good fit. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if he went before Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Jets were content with either Drake London or Garrett Wilson, whoever they ended up getting. So love that pick for Zach Wilson. And they also drafted pretty solid running back out of Iowa State, who's
Traded up for him.
who's our consensus 101 before the draft and after the draft.
For sure. Yeah, they definitely loaded up. They have really given Zach Wilson no excuses not to go out and excel this season. it's not technically a contract year, but I think depending on how he performs with all of the weapons they've provided him with, I think it gives them enough film to decide whether or not he's the quarterback of the future for them or not.
I did like their Sauce Gardner pick, that corner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tyreek just got into their division. They're going to have to guard Tyreek 2 times a year. So that type of guy maybe helps out a lot with that. So
Especially when you go up against Tyreek.
And
you have Diggs.
right. And they did end up getting Jermaine Johnson as well. So that overall draft, I mean,
It was
pretty fire.
a stellar draft class.
yes, we like that a lot. I don't know if it's good or bad for Elijah Moore yet. We'll see. They're very comparable players. They get open pretty easily. And it's definitely not a good thing for Michael Carter. What do you got? I've got Michael Carter on my team. I've been trying to trade him all offseason. Does he have a chance to be a third down back or anything like that?
Well, he'll be
I don't
their
think
RB2, right? He'll be right behind
Yep.
Brees Hall.
Yep.
So we'll see what they want to do with Brees, but it does go to show these very specific positional type of running backs, you will get replaced.
And he was just a 4th round pick. So any 2nd round running back nowadays is essentially a 1st round pick.
Yep, pretty much. So these are just a few of the teams that we really liked. As Nick mentioned, there were a couple teams that we really didn't like their drafts. Let's go to New England first, then we'll get to Minnesota. What were they doing there in New England?
Well, New England, I have a theory about this. I think Bill is on the way out over the next couple of years. I think he's just burning shit down on his way out. He's going to leave them in such bad shape. No, he hates the NFL. He hates Roger Goodell.
So he ruins his own team?
Why not?
He's tarnishing his own reputation?
No, he's setting himself up because they're going to be so bad for years, and everyone will be like, oh, remember when we had Bill? And he remembers the one that started the Brian Flores drama. So I think he's up to something.
But they've been doing what they've always done. Like we look at it as a bad draft now, which in hindsight we probably will as well. But they don't pick receivers very well. They picked N'Keal Harry a couple of years. Henry was that no N'Keal Harry? Yeah,
yep.
out of Maryland.
Maybe the one.
And that didn't shake out very well. I know he's still on the roster, but we could see what happens there. He's not developing very well. And they picked Tyquan Thornton, which seemed like a stretch. They're in the 2nd round. It's not a guarantee he pans out. And they added to their already crowded backfield. I mean, I know Damian Harris is probably out of there in 1 year. But they bring in Pierre Strong Jr., who was like a low-key sleeper 3rd-round running back you could snag.
Yeah.
But now that he's in a crowded backfield, he might go undrafted in our 3-round, 10-team rookie mock draft. And
They drafted a quarterback in the 4th round.
And then they drafted Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky. Round 4. What are they doing? They've got Mac Jones. It makes no sense, but
Best quarterback names in the NFL.
it is a good one.
Mac Jones and Zappy.
Yeah.
You shitting me?
And that's what the Patriots have always done. They had Tom Brady, and they drafted Jimmy G whenever the fuck that round, whatever that round was for Jimmy G.
Yep.
But they want to have a decent backup quarterback. I mean, they've done that in the past, so I don't think they've done anything different than what they've done in the past. It's just right now comparing it to the Jets, Chiefs, Ravens, these other teams that did well. It just looks bad.
For a team that showed so much promise last year too, it was just you didn't do anything to get better. I don't feel like, and even if all these guys pan out, so they traded with the Chiefs round 1 and fell back to 29. They get Cole Strange, who was getting 2nd, 3rd round grades in all of his combine statistics, and they overreach on him. He could be a great player, but they could have gotten him 2 rounds earlier and gotten someone else who might be a difference maker. Same with Tyquan Thornton. Again, I was huge on Tyquan Thornton, not a 2nd round draft pick. Should have gone in the 3rd or 4th round. They drafted a 5'8" cornerback in the 3rd round. He's got longer arms, which for defensive backs, a lot of teams put a lot of stock in having long arms. But Pierre Strong, that was another one. It was a good pick, but it was all of these guys are just overreaches, I feel like. And then drafting a quarterback in the 4th round when you have a rookie guy, it's just I don't know what they were doing. It's just I don't know.
He's pouring gasoline all over the facilities, and he's slow striking the match.
Yep, so we did not like the Pats draft. We'll see how it shakes out. See how long Bill Belichick hangs around. Seems like building's burning down soon. So I guess we'll see. See if Vince's theory comes true. He hit on the. We'll get to it with the QB's fallen. Vince was all over that. But another team draft that I think they did okay for their team needs, but at the same time, they've got a first-year GM, don't they? The Vikings.
Yeah, he's from Kansas City.
And
What's his name?
Adolfo Mensa.
Okay, so he
Nerd.
had 2 trades within the division. One to the same. Well, let me see here. What is it again? What were the trades?
They
One was with
gave
Detroit.
Detroit Lions Jamison Williams, a team that's very upstart. They were barely losing games last year. They are not as far behind as everyone thinks in that division. They're not that far behind Minnesota, and you go and give them Jamison Williams. You could have drafted anyone else, but you gave a divisional rival Jamison Williams.
And the other team was the Green Bay Packers, who drafted Christian Watson.
Yep.
In the second round.
Like, why? Why are you doing this? Why?
Those guys are going to be playing on those teams for a while, and the Vikings are going to have to guard them. Why would you trade in your division and let your other team
With your
get
first
better?
2 picks, too. With your first 2 picks, they're just like, nah, and then nah.
Like, okay,
and then
maybe
you guys go draft fucking Ferraris.
Maybe do one if you had to, but try and avoid it. I feel like first-year GM mess up. I guess chalk it up.
First GM purely
Learn from
a nerd, which means analytical background. I've never heard that before. I don't even know what that means, but ESPN said it. And look where it gets you. He's looking at Excel. He's not looking at anything else. He's looking at his goddamn spreadsheet. And this is what you get. You accidentally give your divisional opponents weapons that are going to torch you twice a year.
We'll kind of move on to that next takeaway. Any other takes on Vikings?
No, it was just an odd. They did what they needed to get better as a team, I feel like, but the way that they went about it was just kind of strange in my opinion. That's all I have to say about that.
It was egregious.
Well, next takeaway we had from the NFL draft was wide receivers galore. So I think we ended up having 6 go in the first round.
2 traded in the first round.
Yep, and then we had another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 go in the second round. So just a lot of wide receivers, a lot of talent there at that position. Seems like each and every year the talent's getting a bit better. You saw 2 go in the top 10. All 6 of those first rounders went in the top 20, which I think was the first, and they broke some record with that. So
I believe that.
Just
Yeah,
was
it's just
crazy wide receiver class.
this whole offseason for wide receivers has just been bonkers. Wide receivers getting huge contracts that they really shouldn't be getting, a la Christian Kirk.
Yep, Christian Kirk's fault.
Dynasty receivers, Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams going to different teams. A.J. Brown gets traded during the draft. Hollywood gets traded during the draft. It's just, it's been a wild ride for wide receivers this year. And, I'm excited to see how it pans out for fantasy, how it pans out for these teams individually, just as from an NFL standpoint. It's just been a wild offseason for sure.
It's a good year to need a wide receiver in your rookie drafts. So, and you mentioned it, that A.J. Brown trade, that was kind of like the biggest news on day one, the biggest, like, holy shit, what just happened deal of the whole NFL draft. So A.J. Brown gets traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Philadelphia Eagles, gets to pair up with his best friend, Jalen Hurts. I guess they're pretty close. They attend each other's kids' birthday parties and shit. Like, they're that kind of close friends. They go to Disney.
That's weird.
They go to Disneyland together, so they're tight. We got to have another, like, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, early morning coffee type of relationship going on. Maybe we need to adjust our rankings accordingly. But
Probably.
That's obviously good for the Eagles. I know they're a run-first offense, but maybe they start passing the ball more. They've got Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. That is a really good duo in the NFL these days.
So when this all went down, I didn't process this right away. What was it later on in the night? Brooks was there for this. Was it later in the night, or was it kind of immediate when I started talking about how did the Cardinals use the same draft capital to get Hollywood Brown? If I'm the GM of the Cardinals, I am kicking in the door when that trade gets announced. I'm shutting down the computers. We're turning the lights off. Everyone's fired. How did we get Hollywood Brown for a first and a third, and then they got A.J. Brown for a first and a third?
That's a great point.
Burn it down.
I believe that was later in the night.
And I think the Tennessee
first round, right?
was
Yeah.
kind of backed into a corner. A.J. Brown wanted a fat contract. I think the Tennessee, they came in with a low offer, and A.J. Brown's like, yep, I'm going to entertain anything else I can get. So they're kind of backed into a corner where this guy's obviously going to go somewhere else regardless because we can't match what he wants. We're paying Ryan Tannehill the biggest cap hit this year out of any quarterback in the league. So A.J. Brown's entertaining other offers, and when you get another first-round pick along with that, and you're in the draft, I mean, you take advantage of what you can and the time to save that value. And they draft Treylon Burks, who is comp to A.J. Brown a lot.
Yeah. It's just crazy, like, looking at that contract. I mean, you knew that all of these guys, DK, Debo, and A.J. Brown, were all going to want somewhere around $23 to $26 million each. And their GM and head coach felt so confident in the fact that they were going to get a deal done and get him signed to a long-term extension. Like, that was the one that no one, like, yeah, he's going to stay in Tennessee, and fucking just trade him away.
Yeah,
What was it, a 4-year, $100 million extension?
That sounds right. They were working on a deal, and that deal was not up to what A.J. Brown wanted.
I guess not. So that was just a huge surprise to me. So
I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't.
Total room shaker when this dropped.
Biggest move of the draft, without a doubt.
And you can't overreact too much to A.J. Brown's like fantasy value. I mean, I don't think Jalen Hurts is a whole lot different than Tannehill. Yeah, maybe Tannehill.
definitely not.
I mean, Tannehill's a better passer. He's a more proven player in the league. But I don't think you overreact because A.J. Brown now has Jalen Hurts as his quarterback. I think the biggest takeaway is that this helps Jalen Hurts. He's on a 1-year prove-it deal, essentially.
Pretty much.
The Eagles are lined up to maybe draft a guy next year.
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts, he's got all the weapons, just like Zach Wilson. So, I mean, these guys need to get up and go. So I think it's good for Hurts, and we'll kind of see what shakes out.
Yep. I think our fifth and final takeaway was, and Nick was right about this, the quarterbacks. Teams were not very high on this year's quarterbacks. Only one taken in the first round.
Yep.
Kenny Pickett. Kenny Two Gloves is staying in Pittsburgh, going to play for the Steelers. All these other guys going in the second, third, and fourth rounds. I think Sam Howell.
No one went in the second round.
I thought Malik went in the second.
That was the third.
Damn.
It was awesome.
I was a little drunk during those
Let me
those 2
say,
days.
I was having the time of my life basking in all of these names being called and them not being Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder or any of these motherfuckers.
Yeah, you're spot on, Nick.
I will just real quick say I think both Desmond Ridder and Malik found the perfect teams for them to eventually be successful. So I was talking shit, but I think both of them actually landed in the best spots they could have gone to.
Yeah, and Ridder was that second quarterback off the board, and he didn't go till round 3, pick 74. So to see those quarterbacks slide, I mean, I think the over-under legit, like Vegas had it set at like 3.5.
Yeah.
Under!
Then it was like trying to set it at 2, and we're like, dude, you're fucking crazy. So one quarterback goes at number 20 overall, and that's the best landing spot out of all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, we were saying if Kenny Pickett goes early and someone else goes early, whoever, even if it's Matt Corral, Ridder goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, like that's still a fire landing spot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of weapons there. They drafted Pickens. Like I think Pickett is going to be competing for that starting job. Does he beat Trubisky for week 1? I don't know. They've got options.
We'll see what happens.
And but yeah, Matt Corral, I thought it was funny. He was interviewed before the draft, and it was like, "Oh, you're obviously here for the draft. Like, do you expect to go round 1?" He's like, "Oh, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I was going to go round 1."
Do you think he stayed?
I don't know, because I don't even think Breece Hall stayed. He was like somewhere nearby, and then he had to drive to the draft. And like he was walking in with like a t-shirt on, like getting his hat on. So I don't know if some of those guys stuck around or not, but yeah, no, the QBs slid far. And as soon as one slides to 20, they all slide.
Will not be the case next year. Next year, you're going to see 4 quarterbacks first round. I'll say at least right now, but it will be at least 4 quarterbacks in the first round next year. Not a hot take. Just like my quarterback take, not a hot take.
Hot take. We'll see what happens.
We'll have to sit on it.
What if all of them tear their Achilles next year? This coming football
Spencer
season.
Rattler first overall. Bryce
Definitely
Young,
not.
I saw
Stroud.
C.J. Stroud to the Texans first overall in a
And where
way
did
too
you
early
see
mock
Rattler?
draft.
And where did you see Rattler? First round.
I didn't look at the whole fucking draft. I just saw the clickbait.
We won't go into Spencer Rattler.
Spencer
folks.
Rattler,
This
a
man
guy
was
who
done
lost
so
his
dirty.
job last
He
season.
was done so dirty
He got benched.
He was done dirty because he played bad.
because he was being done so dirty
Whatever.
by the sleaziest man in college football who's now about to go into tampering.
Well, there's our 5 takeaways. We're going to kind of move on to our winners and losers. I think we both picked one for each of those. I'll start. My winner is Zach Wilson. We touched on it a little bit already, but they added to that offense, and he's ready to roll for year 2. I mean, if they don't do it in year 1, year 2, these second-year sophomore quarterbacks better get rolling. He's got all the options in the world. I think he's a winner. He's set up to win, unlike quarterbacks in the past there. So I love what New York's got going on for Zach Wilson, and glad I switched Mac Jones for Zach Wilson before the draft.
I was going to ask about that. I was like, well, we could incorporate the winners and losers with what we just talked about, since we hit on New England and
Right.
the Jets as well.
Yep.
Who do you think won, Drake? What's your full opinion on that?
At this point in time, when we did the trade, it was probably a month or two ago. Me and Brooks, we swapped Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. At the time, it seemed like a pretty even trade, but a year from now, that can change, and it's already changed. So adding Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and the Patriots adding Thornton and Pierre
baby.
Strong, like obviously at this point in time, I've got Zach Wilson a few spots probably over Mac. I don't think it's a big difference right now, and he's still got to go out there and prove it. I mean, the Patriots, you could still easily argue that they're the better team, the better organization. So Mac Jones is going to be more set up to win maybe than Zach Wilson, but seeing those weapons there, seeing the coaching staff get settled in because they're still a new coaching staff. So I like the Wilson side at the moment. I think he's a clear winner from the draft.
False.
I'll go ahead. I just flipped about 10 minutes ago. I flipped my winner. I was going to go Sky Moore. We talked a lot about Sky Moore up front, but when I heard the name George Pickens, there's not a lot to say here, but I do think he was a big winner in this draft. So he was projected to go higher. He definitely was, but he's also a notorious piece of human debris, allegedly, and he was hurt last year, and he was young. But for being the big reason he fell was all of his alleged piece of shittery. And who better at dealing with people like this than either Andy Reid? I wanted to draft George. Or Mike Tomlin. And the Steelers are always cranking out wide receivers. They always have 2 or 3 wide receivers that you look at and you go, they're good. Really good.
They've had a lot of success drafting a wide receiver in the second round. Like, that list is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Chiefs picked George Karlaftis, I saw some videos, and I know Venom mentioned it when he was having his little watch party, but the Chiefs picked George Karlaftis there, and everybody thought it was
George Pickens.
We wanted George. The room wanted George, definitely. And we heard George, and everyone went crazy, and then everyone was like, what? Who is that? Oh, wait.
So Pickens goes. Pickens doesn't go at number 30. He ends up going in round 2, pick 52. And that, I mean, I think he did go later than we thought. We kind of thought late first round, early second round. So that's about mid second round, really. I mean, that's not too big of a difference.
Mm-mm.
But I wouldn't mind him going to the Chiefs, obviously. But I think that landing spot in Pittsburgh is
it's
good.
perfect. It's
I love
perfect.
Sky, too. Draft night was thinking George, but I love the Sky Moore pick. But my winner, George Pickens, thanks to Mike Tomlin.
Who's your loser?
You got to do your winner first.
Well, we'll do Vena's loser last.
I have a lot to say about this.
So do your winner and loser, Zach, and I'll do my loser, and we'll go to Vena's loser.
I actually really like my winner is going to be James Cook. He's someone whose draft capital was definitely on the rise in the weeks going into the draft. And I think his landing spot going to Buffalo is prime time. Devin Singletary is a free agent after next year. Gives him a year of limited hits. That's the biggest thing with these running backs is you don't want them getting 200-300 carries a year. So he's in a prime position to be a receiving back, maybe in those 3rd and goal situations in a PPR league, getting the ball there on the goal line, getting a chance for, a 7-point play, prime time PPR, definitely a high end like flex position for sure. He's someone that I can see going in the early to mid second round of rookie drafts. So he's definitely my winner there. What are your thoughts on that?
I was surprised to see him go that high, but the Buffalo Bills were always looked at as the best landing spot for a running back. So obviously, once James Cook gets picked there in round 2, I mean, his stock's going to rise, and he's probably the 3rd, 4th running back off the board in rookie mock drafts now. All of a sudden, I wasn't too big of a fan before the draft. He's a smaller running back, 5'11", 190. Was at Georgia for 4 years. He is Dalvin Cook's brother, so he's got it in his genes. He had 113 carries last year, 728 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He has got that receiving capability, which is I think is what the Bills wanted. They almost signed J.D. McKissick for the same reason. He had 27 receptions last year, 284 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But he was sharing that backfield with Zamir White, and they split carries. That's what Georgia's been doing. Like you said, he's got a lot of tread on the tires. That's what he could be in a shared backfield as year one.
With
so
Singletary, yeah.
He's going to have a lot of run, and if he hits early, he's going to have a lot of value. And
How many rushing yards did you say you had?
728.
So even with a split backfield, he still had over 1,000 total yards of offense
And
with
11
Georgia.
touchdowns.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can get a rookie in Buffalo's offense getting, I mean, I would even say if he got 800 total yards with 7 touchdowns, that's prime time for a rookie running back for you.
Yep.
So
I like the landing spot.
definitely
for
my
him.
winner there.
I don't know if I'll be picking him in my rookie drafts. I think I'll probably let someone else pick him, but solid landing spot. I agree with that winner.
Have you done your loser?
I haven't. You want me to do my loser?
Go ahead and do your. We'll do a round table of losers now.
So my loser, same team as my winner, Michael Carter. So I own Michael Carter in League of Comp here, and I've been trying to trade him all off season. Try to trade him with a pick for ETN or something, and couldn't get anything done. So I was worried that the Jets might draft a running back. I was hoping they would avoid those top 2, but they go get Brees. So I don't think Michael Carter has much value whatsoever. Like at this point, for me to try to trade him now is going to be really difficult. He's going to have to do something a few weeks for me to have any type of trade offers. Maybe Brees gets hurt, God forbid. But I've got Michael Carter as a big loser from the draft.
Kind of a bummer for him too, because he had a decent rookie season.
Yeah,
like he was a good fantasy option for a lot of players.
He ended the season strong, and one thing that was odd is his best games were with Matt White and was never with Zach Wilson. So for some reason they were never on the same page ever. It was a weird. So maybe we should have. I mean, I tried to trade him away, like I said, but maybe I should have been a little more proactive.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and do my loser here. It's going to be rookie Jahan Dotson. Now, I love Jahan Dotson. I loved all of his combine work. I loved the film on him. I just think his landing spot isn't the greatest. It's a good football location if you're just looking at it from a pure fan standpoint. But you have Carson Wentz as your quarterback. I mean, he's a turnover machine. He could never stay healthy. And then he has a potential out after next season. So you could be looking at a receiver going from one quarterback to another relatively quickly. And it's essentially because they got Sam Howell, right?
Yep.
Which I think is a great location for him. But you're behind Terry McLaurin. You're behind J.D. McKissick. You're behind Antonio Gibson. You know, you're fighting for all these targets. And from a quarterback who really hasn't shown that he can play at an elite level in 3-4 years, stay healthy in 3 or 4 years, I just think it makes him an unreliable fantasy option week in and week out. He's going to be a boomer bust type player in my opinion.
And I was always worried about the Commanders' landing spot for one of these wide receivers.
Yep.
I thought they might pick Garrett Wilson or something. So I think it definitely hurts him for those first few years. But he did get picked in the first round at 16 overall, 2 picks before Treylon Burks. So he was that 5th wide receiver taken. I mean, he's going to have that draft capital. Terry McLaurin could not be on the team for much longer. He maybe could have one more year and they move on from him, and all of a sudden he's the number 1 wide receiver there. So I think he's definitely is a loser from the draft, and you're going to have to be patient with him if you get him in your rookie draft. But I still think he deserves to go round 1, early round 2, especially in a 10-team format.
I agree with that. It's just kind of sketchy. He's going to be a boomer bust type player. He's going to be someone who gets you 15 to 20 points, or he's going to get you less than 10.
Do you think he's a better prospect wide receiver than Terry McLaurin? I think Scary Terry got picked in like the 2nd round at earliest.
Like,
so I think
from just a pure prospect perspective, or like fantasy this year?
Just fantasy, NFL prospect in general. I mean, wide receiver.
I would say he's probably a slightly better prospect, but
yeah, and that's a solid duo. So if Wentz can stay healthy, I mean, he's got MVP votes before. I mean, if he stays healthy, maybe they got something going, but I would not bet on it.
No, and it's not.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Well, it's not like in Indianapolis, he didn't have a whole lot of help there. He had a
Pity City.
That was it.
Yeah.
You had a 31-year-old T.Y. Hilton.
Wayne Pascal is a really cool name.
It is. But
Mo Alley Cox.
That's a good one.
Was he still there, though? Was he there last year?
Yeah.
yeah.
I just know he was with the Colts.
And they had Jack
That's
Doyle,
a great
too,
name.
who retired, and they ended up drafting that Virginia running tight end who's like a reincarnation of Mo Alley Cox. They literally have two Mo Alley Cox now. So, yeah.
Also, if we're just looking at it, like splitting time with Terry McLaurin, looking at his 3 years here in the league, he finished, and this is just our league with our scoring system, 2019, wide receiver 30, 2020, wide receiver 20, 2021, wide receiver 25.
Wow.
So, like, he's a great player, don't get me wrong. He's not quite on that level of DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, any of those guys. And now he gets another first-round talent that is going to be hopefully splitting targets with him. I think it hurts both of them.
Right. It's not good for Terry, obviously.
Nope.
And it's not going to be good for, who's that third wide receiver there? Curtis Samuel, who's been hurt and he hasn't played much since he was at Carolina. But I think that essentially makes Curtis Samuel irrelevant as well.
I agree. Nick, we'll go to you. You
Final loser, the biggest loser.
Bring us home.
This poor man. May the Lord have pity on Justin Fields. So Justin Fields, I was the biggest Justin Fields fan last year. I was saying I thought he might be one of the better guys. When you go to the Bears, it's probably not going to work out, unfortunately, and here's why. So last year they traded up for Justin Fields. They really wanted to get Justin Fields, but they didn't think much after that at all. They didn't think, they thought we just draft, the Chiefs just draft Patrick Mahomes, and that seemed to just work. So we trade up to draft a quarterback. This year, they didn't have a first-round pick. They had no way of obtaining a first-round pick. Their wide receiver room right now consists of Byron Pringle, Darnell Mooney, Velus Jones, Equinamius St. Brown. I think that's Amon-Ra's brother. And Daz Newsome, amongst others. So again, no first-round pick, no way to get one. Then when they're finally picking in the second round, they had 2 second-round picks. They go corner and safety, which were position needs that when the Bears were drafting, finally, need I add, they ran on the bottom of the screen, positional needs. It was like every position. It was corner, DB, DT, OL, head coach, water boy. So they go corner safety. Then, finally, thinking about Justin Fields, the guy that they just traded up for, put a shitload into so they'd be in this spot this year. They finally draft something called a Velus Jones.
What round was that?
A Velus Flytrap. Third round. So we were saying Justin Fields, we were talking about Jay Fields and Zach Wilson, the Mormon. They're both dangerous cities, New York and Chicago. Jay Fields last year, he had a pistol. His team went and bought him a fully fucking automatic, a fucking shotgun, double fisting these things, Uzis in both hands.
Are we talking about Frank Clark?
And he's got a headband. Justin Fields is wandering around Chicago last year with a kitchen knife. And this year, it's bent. It's the same knife. It's used. It's blunted.
It's the same knife.
I mean, god damn. And they got, need I add, they got rid of Allen Robinson, who was very underwhelming last year. And none of this is Justin Fields' fault. I'm a big believer in Justin Fields. Very talented guy. He was a big leader at Ohio State, which is what I really liked about him. I loved his leadership, the way he commanded that team. This is what happens when you go to the Bears. My favorite Big Cat quote, if Patrick Mahomes got drafted by the Bears, he'd have been hit by a bus.
Well, there you go. Justin Fields, the
Biggest loser of the NFL draft. I think we'll probably take a quick break here before we get into our 10-player mock draft. We'll get set up here on Sleeper for our mock draft. And we'll take a quick break. Be right back.
All right, so we just did a quick lottery here, picking names out of a hat to do our draft order here. First overall is going to go to Nick. Second is Drake. Third is going over here to our special guest Brooks. And fourth is going to be me. We'll just do kind of a round robin here for that first round. Nick, you are on the clock. Go ahead and give us who you think your first pick is going to be.
With the first pick in the NFL draft, what team? What's my team name? Doesn't matter. I select Brees Hall, running back, Iowa State, Wichita, Kansas, Wichita Northwest High School, Kansas. Yuck.
Pretty easy, pretty consensus number one
Yep.
overall.
Staying on brand there. I like it, Nick. Staying
All right.
on brand. Consensus 101. Brees Hall.
Drake, you're on the clock. Go ahead.
All right, so at this point, I'm not really eyeing a running back. Probably going to go for the wide receiver position. My pick is in. With the second pick in the rookie mock draft 1.0, I will be picking Treylon Burks at the 102 out of Arkansas, wide receiver.
Definitely a good pick here. There's definitely some other guys you could kind of flip-flop in there, but he's someone that's definitely rose up the fantasy mock boards. So Treylon Burks, attaboy.
Love it. He's a my guy, so I think I could have gone a couple different ways, but I'm going to go with right with my guy, Treylon Burks at the 102.
Brooks, you are on the clock.
And with the third overall pick, I'm gonna have to think on that for a second, but give me a little bit here. Wait,
We need the tone.
Uh-oh.
we need the tone,
Is the
folks.
pick in?
With the third overall pick, I'm gonna take Garrett the Freak Wilson out of Ohio State, headed to the New York Jets, baby. Jets. Let's see how he does with Zach Wilson. I'm very excited, folks.
All right. So I am here on the clock. I'm going to pull a Detroit Lions. My pick couldn't be in any faster. We're going to go ahead and we are going Drake London. He's our number one wide receiver on our board from our last pod. I couldn't be any happier about getting him 104. That's definitely some great value there.
I know, I'm surprised Brooks didn't go with him there at the 103. I'm surprised I didn't pick him at the 102, to be honest. I could have picked London right there at the 102. So, I mean, I don't think any of those wide receivers are too different from Burks to Garrett to Drake, but I definitely would rather have Burks and Drake over Garrett Wilson probably, but I don't think there's a whole lot difference. So,
Nope.
good value there at the 104, no doubt about it. So I think Venna, Nick,
You are on the clock.
back on the clock, bud.
And the pick is in. We are going to have to go K-Walk 3 here. So he's going to be, we all know what's going on in Seattle. Rashad Penny, this is the only dude technically in front of K-Walk 3 right now.
Chris Carson.
We all know how all of this goes. Those guys are going to get hurt, and K-Walk 3 is going to be the bell carrier of the Seahawks this year.
All right. So K-Walk 3. Drake, you are on the clock. Go ahead.
This is where it starts to get tough. Those first five guys are pretty consensus. I think they can go off in any order. So we're kind of falling into that second tier here all of a sudden. So at the 106, it certainly gets tricky. And at this point, my mind's not made up. But I'm going to go ahead. The pick is in. I'm going to go Jamison Williams out of Alabama to the Detroit Lions. I don't love the landing spot, but I'm going to bet on the talent. Not worried about the injury. ACL injuries are the thing of the past. So Jamison Williams, who could have been the number one wide receiver, clear cut with no injury. So snagging him at the 106, you could see him being the best wide receiver in this whole entire deep wide receiver class.
All right. Go ahead, Brooksy.
The seventh pick is in, folks. And with the seventh pick overall, I'm going to have to go with Kenny Pickett's out of Pittsburgh. First quarterback taken, folks.
Okay.
I've got Trevor Lawrence and I've got Mac Jones, so I'm interested to see. Got to add the first quarterback overall. We're going to make it interesting.
If you were there at the 107, I think Kenny Pickett, that's probably the earliest he's going to go, I'd say, in our rookie draft, in our league. I don't think people are going to be valuing quarterbacks too high, but I still think Kenny Pickett's a first-round talent. So snagging him at the 107, that's damn good value.
Especially in a dynasty league. I mean, he's going to go in and he's going to be competing for that starting spot right away. He might not get it week one, but I can't see Trubisky keeping that starting position for long. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I am up 108. Definitely not a position of need, but I'll go ahead. The pick is in. I'll go ahead and take Chris Olave. wide receiver, Ohio State University. Love the guy. He's a great route runner. He is a great guy, valuable for yards after the catch. At 108, I don't think you can argue the value here either. So getting Drake London and Chris Olave, I'm ecstatic about that if I can get that.
I love the 108 spot for these drafts, and that's where I pick from in our actual rookie draft. So you're going to, if I'm sitting there at 108, just like you were there, Zach, and I've got Olave, Christian Watson, or Sky Moore, picking any one of those guys I think is going to be solid. And Olave, I'm not scared of him being there with Michael Thomas or anything like that. So if Winston's healthy and they want to let him loose,
Sling it.
not let him be a game manager, then I think Olave could have a damn good impact right away.
I even think being a game manager, Olave could be a monster for PPR stuff. I can just see him running slants, ins, out, short hitches, things like that, and just letting him work with the ball in his hands after the catch. I think that'd be perfect for him. Nick, you're on the clock again for the 109 spot.
And it's in. We're going to go with Sky more Sky. This dude went to the absolute best situation. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, a whole brand new wide receiver room. No one's had the chance to stand out yet. Sky Moore, we invested heavily in him in the draft. Obviously, we're going to give him a lot of targets, a lot of opportunity, and he's got a lot of potential.
That's a very interesting point you kind of brought up. Outside of Mecole Hardman, no one's seen any of these receivers in the Chiefs offense, and so it's kind of like you have no film on these guys and what they can do. And you can, I mean, I know I said it excluding Mecole Hardman, but I mean, he could probably be that wide receiver one in the Chiefs room, and you haven't seen him used in that situation. Last year, he was kind of a gadget guy. Year 2 and year 1, he was kind of the deep ball threat that they were trying to do to complement Tyreek Hill. But I think it's a really interesting situation there with the Chiefs having no film on any of these receivers. So, good pick. Drake, bring us home 1010.
I know exactly where I'm going, and I'm surprised no one's picked James Cook, to be honest with you. So at this point, my pick is in. I'm going to pick Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, heading to the Green Bay Packers. He's kind of that last guy in that tier 2. I'm not trying to touch James Cook. I could see James Cook going to pick later. He's still top 12 pick, I think, is the ceiling for James Cook. But I won't be touching him. I'm going to go ahead and pick Christian Watson. He's going to easily step into that number 1 position right away if he pans out. I think rookie wide receiver is always tricky for Aaron Rodgers. It's either they hit or they don't. He likes them or he doesn't. So hopefully it pans out. I mean, I know he's got the goods. If he can just catch the ball, I think he'll be a pretty solid asset. So at the 110, I got Christian Watson.
Good pick. Like it. Surprised you didn't go Pickens. I know you were a little bit higher on Christian Watson, more so than George Pickens. Excuse me. But overall, good draft. So if we can just do a recap, everyone go in a circle, tell us your picks. We'll just go in order. Nick, you go ahead.
Brees Hall, Iowa State.
At the 102, I picked Treylon Burks out of Arkansas.
At the 103, my first pick was Garrett the Freak Wilson.
I went ahead and went Drake London, pick 104.
K-Walk 3, running back, Michigan State.
J-Mo at the 106 from Alabama.
And at the 107, who did I pick?
Kenny Pickett.
You picked Pickett.
Just my
I picked Pickett's. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Thank you.
Yep, Pickett at the 107.
108, I snagged Chris Olave, great value.
Sky, more Sky, more Sky.
And then to round it out, Christian Watson.
And with my 11th pick, I went with George Pickens out of Georgia.
There's still a lot of good guys on the board.
Slim Pickens, that's
for
sure.
Kind of your next off the board is like Dameon Pierce, Jahan Dotson, James Cook, George Pickens, Rashad White. And then it kind of gets pretty dull after that. But, I mean, overall, that's a solid top 15. So I'm glad our rookie draft is a snake. I'm going to get 2 of these top 15 guys. And that is an interesting topic, whether or not rookie drafts should be snake or standard. I can see both arguments. I think they should be standard, but with them being snake, it kind of hinders those guys from tanking because they're only going to get 2 top 24 picks, like or
Standard,
top 20 in our
standard.
league. So I
We're
like
a
the
snake
snake.
here. I like snake.
You have
Snake
to
is the
earn
way.
if you were dog shit. Don't you want a chance at the best rookies? I think that's only fair. That's real football.
You
I
do.
think a
You're-
dynasty is standard.
You're gonna get one of those top 5 rookies if you're shit. Like that's pretty solid. You drafted Najee Harris, you drafted Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. That changes your team just to that one guy. It's harder to hit on 2 guys in a rookie draft than it is one.
Right. This is a sore subject here in the LOC League. But that'll conclude our second ever podcast here, DNZ Fantasy Football. Thank you so much for listening. We kept it a little bit shorter for you guys, so it'll be a little bit more bearable. Go ahead and give us a like and subscribe here on our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Twitter. We actually created a Twitter account now. You can find us at what is it, Drake? DNZFF?
DNZ Fantasy.
DNZ Fantasy. Go follow us on Twitter. Check out, we dropped some dink memes, some funny GIFs.
Give us some love in the comments. If you got any questions, we'll try and answer them. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, hopefully, like you said, ask us some questions. We'll maybe have a question segment here on our next couple podcasts. Give us some questions on the Twitter account, and we'll be sure to hit them up, answer them, and give you all your fantasy needs here at DNZ Fantasy Football. Thank you.